Hello everyone, I'm Brad Richardson with County Hazmat. Today's December 30th, 2011. Today we're covering training on the winches for all our hazmat vehicles. We're starting with HM4, one of our older vehicles. One of the winches a little bit different from the others. But we'll start by looking at the components. But before we do that, remember your safety items. Today I'm wearing work gloves, leather work gloves. I have eye protection. Also, again, considering the incident that you're at, to make sure you have the proper PPE. So we'll start by opening the hood because we need to get into the key mechanism. In order to turn the winch on, there's a specific key that you'll see that's red. Open up the hood. This red key here, if you look at it when it's standing up, it's in the off position. If we turn it, 90-degree angle, now it's in the on position. So we're bringing electrical power to the motor. In order to get power, we're going to turn the actual engine motor on to draw us that power to get it to work. The other thing, if you're not actually getting the motor on the winch to work, consider looking at some of our fuses here. We've got 3 fuses that you could look at. When I press these red buttons, these are reset buttons, and when I press them, if I press it, I'll get a little piece that says reset on it, and it'll turn almost like it at an L position. If you see that reset, you may not be drawing power to the motor. So I can turn that and click it back on. So take a look at your actual fuses here to make sure that they're in position to draw power to the winch. So the second thing we need to look at is we need a remote control, which we can get in the glove box. Use a remote control to actually activate and move the cable for the winch. As I look at this, I've got 2 buttons. Get it untangled here. On the red side, it says in. The black side, it says out. Obviously, to bring the cable in, we press the in button. Or we're using it to pull it out with power, the out button. As I look at the actual components, there's 4 holes there, but there's 3 that have actual metal pieces. We got to connect those metal pieces to the metal inside the remote control. So I find the 3 that I need to connect. Okay, in place like that. Next thing to look at, we're looking at the clutch mechanism. As I look at the cable, it's nice and taut, and I'm going to need to get this loose. The clutch is controlled by this switch here. When I actually look at this, when this piece is in, the clutch is engaged. And when I say engage, we're going to bring power to the cable. When I pull it and then turn it, now it's disengaged. So I can manually pull this out because there's no power. Okay? So if I put this back, put it in, now it's engaged. Okay? So to get power, we'll turn on the motor. Now we're drawing power. Now I have a couple options. I can manually pull this, or I can use my power. Probably the safer way to do it is to actually disconnect it. So I'll disengage the clutch. Now I can pull it, unhook it, and I can pull it to wherever my actual thing I want to get back out of what we're doing, whether it's a 55-gallon drum or whatever we need to pull up, bring it to that point. Now I get to the point where I need to use power. I'm going to re-engage the clutch. What I've noticed on HM4 is I can't get it to all the way go in and engage. So what you can do with this particular one is actually bring it in, and as I pull it and use the motor, as I turn the motor, I can push it and engage it back in because it's not quite connecting with the motor. So I engaged it. Now I have a couple options. For safety purposes, have a couple people that are with the actual cable line and the other person controlling the remote control. Now, the cable allows me to be at a safe distance away from the cable because it's going to be taut and a lot of tension as I pull it forward. I can be at a safe distance. It also gives me the option to actually go in the cab can use it from the other side. So I can be inside the cab and use it, especially if we're going to be moving the truck. In most cases, we won't need to do that. The other thing to consider as you're pulling something forward, especially if you have a heavy thing that you're bringing up, you could get a lot of tension in the line. To reduce that tension, you can put something on the actual cable, something heavy. I don't know, a backpack, one of our boxes, a big piece of carpet. So if it actually does break, you won't have a cable flying around because it'll reduce that tension with that extra weight. Okay? So I have my load. So I'm going to pull in. I'm ready to disengage or engage. Using my in button. Now as I'm bringing it in, I got to be cautious of it actually spooling. So if you want to come over here, Ron, I'll show you. As we bring this forward, I have the line accumulating here. What I want to do is actually pull the line farther away. And as if you look at this, the cable should be pulling close to here. We want to line this up perfectly. If I get cable coming over top of cable, we could damage the cable. So I'm going to actually go back out. And realign it. Now keep in mind, I have my other partners with me to help keep it taut. So I bring it back in, and I want to make sure that line is gradually spooling nice and taut together. Okay? One way to do that is keeping that at an angle. As I draw to an angle, you can see I'm still not getting it all the way through. But another good way to do that again is to make sure you have a taut load the whole time and pull that cable nicely through. Once I've got to the point where I pulled up whatever I need to, the best way to bring this is to actually walk with it, not pulling it. Okay, we want to keep it a safe distance and keep a nice tension. So one person spooling it in and you walk with it to gradually pull it up. One thing to consider, once I've got everything set and I've pulled my cable through, any of the cables that we use on any of the trucks, make sure we have the clutch engaged, okay, to where I can't manually come out when you're driving. So at the end of HM4, we'll move on to the other vehicles.